Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm half Welsh, half Irish, but I can't speak Welsh and I can't speak Irish. I've finished Icelandic 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, but unfortunately, fi mefe year tala enska ida. Unfortunately, I do have to do this in English today. So, so I'm from Reykjavíkar University, and this presentation is about the work that we've been doing with the ABLA organization. I would like to thank some people from the outset, the University of the Faroe Islands and the Faroese Confederation of Sport and Olympic Committee for the invitation. I'd also like to thank, obviously, ABLA, who provided us with the data we're working with. I'm also going to mention the taxi driver who collected Anna Brau and myself from the airport last night, because she was in the green team that was in that Madeira photograph that we've just seen. So it's a small world. Okay, so the data are actually quite simple. If you actually look at what we've got here, we've got some basic demographic information about the children who use the ABLA app. The ABLA app is something that allows us to organize sports, invite people to training sessions. They accept training sessions. So it's used to organize sessions. It's used so as parents can be sure that their children are at the football club rather than saying that at the football club and being somewhere else. And then we have the information down at the bottom here about the session itself, the sport that is being done, the team that they are in, the age group of the team. Very importantly, the last two, did they accept the invitation? And did the coach mark them present? So this is so it looks like very simple data, but we've got this through an awful lot of people, which has allowed us to do some interesting things. So I'll talk a bit about the culture of Icelandic youth sport, but I can't really do it justice. Anna is a very hard act to follow on that one. So yes, we have municipality sports. It's very different to what we have in the UK, where the football club, the rugby club, and the cricket club are completely separate, and the transfer opportunities are a lot harder in the UK than they would be in countries like the Faroe Islands and Iceland. So the data themselves, the sort of thing that I'm able to do with this, now this is just one person over a 2-year period, but I'm able to see every session that they attended in the different sports. So those yes-no data get turned into something like this once we look at that person over a 2-year period. So these data are from February 2021 to February 2023, which just happens to be the last 12 months of COVID restrictions and the first 12 months since. So the ABLA data gives us the opportunity to look at things like dropout, to look at things like transferring between sports, gender differences, relative age effects. There's a lot of things that we can look at that can give the clubs knowledge that can help them make decisions. So this work has been done, and information has been provided to the top 21 sports the top 21 clubs in Iceland, to the main governing bodies of sport in Iceland, to the Icelandic Olympic Committee. We've done regional presentations. I was at a North of Ireland sports conference, for example. I've presented this to the students that I teach as well, many of whom work in the municipality sports clubs. So what the data might look like for attendance figures is something like this over the 2-year period. But this is largely because there's a sort of weekly pattern where most of the training sessions are done Monday to Thursday. So it's probably better to take a 7-day average, and then the graph looks a lot neater like this. So there does seem to be a bit of a down period in July. I'm not sure what goes on December the 25th, but I certainly trained on December 25th when I was a track and field athlete every year. But you can see that soccer dominates. That blue line up at the top is soccer. Then you have the next 5 sports, which are gymnastics, handball, basketball, athletics and swimming, and then you have the rest. So it's dominated by those sports. So we're able to look at the age profile of the people who use the apps and who do sessions. Now, this looks alarming, and I want to be quite clear. This data comes from use of the app and people recording training sessions that they go to. So it's highly possible that people, when they get to the age of 16 and 17, are doing sport, they are playing football, they're just not having to use the app, and the parents aren't having to monitor them anymore. So just bear that in mind, that we have that limitation of the data, that it is about the use of the app. So what I am counting as an attendance is where an invitation to a training session is accepted and where the coach marks the player present. So it's that 71% that I've circled on the left-hand side. So there's 24% where they didn't accept it and the coach marked them absent, pretty sure they weren't there. And then there's sort of 5% where there's a bit of a disagreement. And I've decided I won't count those. I'm only going to count the ones where they've accepted and where the coach has marked them present. But does that actually mean there was somebody there, or is this just yes and no on the app? So on the right-hand side, you see what ABLA has recorded for a validation study we did. Some students of mine went out to 70 different training sessions in the 4 top sports and actually counted up the number of children that were present. And then the next week, we got the ABLA data and compared it. And so it has a reasonably good relative agreement, good correlation, but there is an overestimation. So the ABLA data overestimates attendance by 7%. And you can see that the more people that attend a training session, the more the error is between the observed figure and the expected figure. So that original timetable that I showed you, that 2-year calendar, it's not safe scientifically to analyze data at that level. It would be nice if we could, and I think another validation study might show that there are certain sports where the data are better than some sports. But what we can do is we can look at broad patterns over months and years rather than day-to-day patterns. So that's what we're doing. So what we have is near population data. So there's about 66,000 people in Iceland aged between 5 and 19 during the calendar years 2021 to 2023. And these data account for, about 60% of them. So we've got 39,000 people who have done a sport at least once, and we've got 34,818 people who have done 20 training sessions in at least one sport. So they're the ones I'm really interested in studying here. So what we can do is we can look at the gender breakdown, which is, for example, showing us that sports like figure skating, gymnastics, volleyball, are done much more by the females than by the males. However, down at the bottom, when you look at the martial arts, it's predominantly the males who are doing the martial arts. We're able to look at the popularity of sports, and you can see here, no matter whether you're talking about somebody doing at least one session on the left or 20 or more sessions on the right, soccer is dominating the number of training sessions that are being done. We've got some interesting results for people doing multiple sports. So you can see that on the right-hand side, when you're looking at doing 20 or more training sessions in a sport, 32% of people are doing more than one sport, which is important. We're also able to look at relative age. So if we get the national statistics for when people were born in the years where our 5 to 19-year-olds were born from the national statistics, we can then look at the birth pattern. It looks quite similar, but there is a relative age effect. The red line is the people who are attending sports, and the black line is the people who you would expect if it mirrored the population. And I just want you to look at the last 3 bars, October, November, December for the boys. There's clearly an underrepresentation. And this is a clear relative age effect that is statistically significant. In football, we're certainly seeing this. In gymnastics, particularly male gymnastics, we're actually seeing the reverse, which agrees with research by Baxter Jones and colleagues, of a relative age effect. It's actually better to be late maturing and late born if you're a male gymnast. And we've a significant relative age effect. Again, you see it on the last 3 months, the underrepresentation in the red bars of male basketball players compared with what you would expect for people of those ages in the population. So dropout, what we are counting as dropout is in that 2-year period, if you're not doing the sport in the last 29 days, excluding normal holiday periods and days off for the sport, we are counting you as having dropped out. And we've done a regression model, and what you see here is anything which is a green arrow is reducing dropout, and anything with a red arrow is increasing dropout. So as you get older, you're more likely to drop out. If you're involved in golf, you're more likely to drop out than if you're involved in these other sports. There was 10 sports where we had enough data to include the sport as a dichotomous factor in the model. Gender on its own is not a significant predictor of dropout. It's only when you combine it with age and combine it with some other things that it becomes significant. So, which may look a bit surprising when you look at some of the graphs I'm about to show, but first of all, multiple sports. If you do more than one sport, you are less likely to drop out of sport than if you specialize too early in a single sport. That's what's being shown on this graph. This is the interactive effect of gender and age. So you might think that surely that's got to be a significant gender effect. It isn't. But you can see that the girls start to go up 14 to 15. The boys start to go up 15 to 16 in terms of the dropout. That's the significant interactive effect. And this one's quite worrying when you get to the age of 17. So at the age of 17, you may have somebody attending training sessions 4 or more days per week. They're almost as likely to drop out as somebody who's attending fewer than 2 sessions a week on average. So just because they're attending doesn't necessarily mean that they're not in risk of dropout. Now, I'm just going to mention at this point where this is going, because some of you have probably got this question. Lovely graphs, lovely figures, but what are you doing in terms of doing something about it? ABLA are developing a feature based on this research, which is sort of predicting where people might be at risk of dropping out of a sport and what other sport they might move on to based on evidence that we have of people transferring between sports. So they're building this into a feature of the app. I've literally received an email yesterday. This has been ongoing for a few months, but I received an email yesterday about something quite specific. I have to get back to them next week on about this. So this is something that is happening with the app. A paper that we had published in the International Journal of Computer Science and Sport shows the main transfer patterns. So this is for girls. Gymnastics and swimming are donor sports. And what we're also seeing is there seems to be a net transfer into the main team games from the individual sports. And that is completely, and also dance is, it's actually a recipient sport. I thought dance might be a donor sport. Our data is showing it's a recipient sport. There wasn't enough males involved in dance for it to be involved in the graph for males. And what we're also seeing here is it's opposite to what we see for the females. There's a net migration away from the team games to the individual sports. And I think this is because of the competitiveness to make the football team, that all of a sudden somebody finds that they're quite good at athletics and they move into that sport. So the sort of information that we can use, these graphs become very complicated quite quickly, and the lines I'm showing is only where the transfers account for more than 5% of the transfers in the given gender group. So what we can do is we can look at something like football and say, where people transfer into football, where do they come from? And when people transfer out of football, where do they go to? So we've got this information for the females, and we've got this information for the males, and we've got it for all of the sports. And this is the type of information that ABLA are using within their app to suggest things that people may do if they're struggling in one sport or thinking of dropping out of that sport. We're also able to look at the municipalities. So the percentage of people who are doing 20 or more sports, what we call as full participants, we're able to show. I just like drawing graphs, to be honest, maps, and but we're able to sort of see the we're able to see the percentage of people who are doing 20 or more sessions over the 2-year period. I told you I like drawing maps. And we're also able to see, you know, the percentage of females, and you can see certain areas of the country. This is for golf. To be honest, those red figures, we're talking about very low frequencies of people who are registered in golf at those low age groups in those regions. With the postal areas, we can look at the breakdown of the sports that they do. Postal area 600 to 691, Akureyri. The pink is other sports. So the variety of sports that people do in that region is far greater than elsewhere. And while we're looking sort of on a broad postcode basis, we're also able to look at the individual clubs. So, for example, I might as well tell you this is Valor Reykjavik because they are the only club that do all 3 of these sports, so it's a bit of a giveaway anyway. But we can see the people who are only doing basketball, only doing football, only doing handball out of those 3 sports, and then we can see people who are doing 2 or all 3 of those sports, and we can see that for the girls and the boys. What we're also able to do, so some of the stuff in the literature, they've had to do some really impressive statistics because they don't actually have a common identifier for the same people in different sports. So they've had to really come up with an analytical way of estimating that. We've got an anonymized identity, which is the same anonymized identity for you, no matter what sport you're in. So if people in Valor Reykjavik are doing other sports outside of Valor Reykjavik that Valor do not offer, then we're able to see this information like this, which may be useful for the club. Maybe should they be offering athletics, or should it, or is it really a waste of time to be competing with the nice track that they've got down in Breivablik or FH or ER, for example? So these are the sorts of decisions that the information can support. We're able to look at the gender breakdown for. So this is a Stjarnan club. And compare it with the gender breakdown in the same sports nationally to see where they're similar and where there might be a bias in one direction or the other in the particular sport. We're also able to look at, so for a particular sport like soccer, the green means that they're still participating. The light green means they took a break of 29 or more days but came back. Possibly an injury or something like that. And this does not include the normal holiday days. I've got a masking thing, you should see it, it's great, that looks at the holiday days and the off seasons for each of the different sports. Red is a real problem. Red is where you leave this sport and you do not even try another sport. The orange, the amber, you've at least tried another sport before dropping out of sport. And then you've got blue and light blue, which is the sort of migration to other sports that we've already looked at. The sort of thing that this can be used for is to sort of help decisions. So I did get my head of department said to me, Peter, can you give us some information about people who are involved in Grindavik? Could you possibly drop everything and do this for tomorrow morning because the minister's under pressure to give an answer to this? And I'm thinking, who's putting the minister under pressure? The Prime Minister. So that was actually worrying but refreshing at the same time because whenever I lived in the United Kingdom, Boris Johnson didn't give a damn about what I was doing. So this is what's left of the sports hall in Grindavik because of the earth movements and so on. So what we were able to do is, these are the invitations, and the dip that you see there in December, January 2023, 2024 is when the first of those eruptions happened and the evacuation. So you can certainly see the invitations have gone back up, but the actual attendances have not matched that. So that's information that is useful, and we're able to look at the number of people who are getting back to the level of attendance that they were at before, and really only 70% or 62% of people are getting up to 50% of the attendances that they did before. This is in that first 4 months of 2024. Where they are involved in sport, where are they doing it? Who's moving to other clubs? So with football, we're able to look at this information. So other clubs are taking them. Now, you might think, oh, that's really disappointing. There's very few. There's something I need to mention. The biggest club in the country, Breiðablik, doesn't use the Abla app. So a lot of people from Grindavik, certainly in basketball, because that's where they play their matches, that's where they would have gone. So that sort of contextual information, I'm aware of it, and we can make the people we're answering to aware of that as well. We can do a similar thing with basketball and look at the, UMFG is Grindavik. There's other sports they may do at Grindavik. There's non-Grindavik sports where they may do well. I just want you to take a look at that figure down at the bottom right. I think this is a real good news story. So this is people who were with the Grindavik club, and now in the first part of 2024, 115 of them are doing sports elsewhere that are sports that were not even offered by Grindavik. And you can compare that with, the period before the eruptions. So I think that's something that's a real good news story for Grindavik. We've also been asked about immigrant populations. So just about 5% of the Abla users register their nationality as not Icelandic. We have 91 different nationalities, but the overwhelming majority of people are Icelandic. Martial arts is certainly a sport where the immigrant children are doing really well. They're attending. You can see that if 5% of the app users are Icelandic, well, you've got, 15%, 10%, 9% doing martial arts. But you do see for some of these other sports, football is below the 5%, basketball, athletics, golf way below what you would see, what you would expect. So 5% of app users are non-Icelandic children, but when it comes to golf, it's less than 1%. So I don't know why I did this. It's exactly the same table, but the man who never made a mistake never made anything, as my hairdresser says. We can also look at the gender breakdown. So the Icelandic children, 45% of them using the app are females. That's a worry in itself, because the population's 50-50. But we're seeing even more of a problem with the non-Icelandic children. And this one in particular, the Icelandic children attend more training sessions. I don't know who this is who's doing 1,200 training sessions in 730 days. It's a 2-year period. That's got to be swimming or something. But that's what's in the data, so there's no point in me ironing it out. It's there. But the 110 average for the number of training sessions the Icelandic children attend, that is significantly more than the overseas children. Now, the real worrying thing is that the difference between the Polish children, who represent 1/3 of the immigrant community in Iceland, that attendance figure for them is almost significantly lower than the other overseas children. The p-value is 0.061. So I'm not 95% certain, I'm only 90% certain, so it's not significant, but that is clearly a worry. We believe it's because they go to a Polish class on the Saturday morning, and that is cutting down on their ability to be involved in sport. The 5% figure, it's much lower than the national statistics. So obviously a lot of people will be adults whose families may still be where they came from and they're working in Iceland. Also, you may have people who don't have children. You may have people using the app who, they're part of an immigrant community, but they're Icelandic citizens, so they've put down Icelandic. Again, we've got this limitation in the data that we're using, what has been recorded on the app. But what we are able to do is we're able to say, okay, which regions, that's a hat trick, I told you I like drawing maps, which regions are the ones where there's the biggest recruitment. And if you're getting above 5%, that's more than average for the number of overseas people. We're also able to look at things like those from countries that are, majority Muslim countries. Do we find that they would be not involved in sport during Ramadan, for example? We've not really found that evidence. When I look at the participation of children who are from those areas, they are attending just as much during Ramadan as anybody else would be. COVID did hit, I think, the immigrant populations a bit more than it hit the Icelandic population. So there's the COVID period on the left, and you compare it with the period after. So a reduction of 17% in attendances during COVID for the Icelandic children, 29% for the overseas children. And we're able to look at that for particular groups, the rest of Africa, for example, other, 50%, Middle East, North Africa, minus 40%. So we can sort of get this information. There is, I'm just going to go back to the previous slide, because is that reduction because the immigrant community is growing and therefore the number of apps are growing? I haven't properly checked that yet. So just those dropout figures during COVID, they might be lower than what I'm showing here. Okay. So future plans, we're already working on features with the app. The app is now being used. When I first moved to Iceland, they were trying to get exports. They're now working with 30 of the 92 professional football clubs in the English League, their academies. The world-class gym group that we have in Iceland for recreational gym use. Abla is now involved in sort of people going in and out of the gyms. It's recording all of that. So that's another area of research. I know that things in the Abla app have now been translated into Faroese. So hopefully you'll be seeing the app being used here with various sports. And I already have the R scripts to do the pre-processing to get us up and running with that, and I'm quite happy to hand those over to give you a flying start if you need to do this sort of analysis with sports participation, dropout, transferring in the Faroe Islands. Thank you very much.